Welcome to episode 19 of Discount Storytime. This week's story is Pro-M-onster. It's Monster, Hold the Mash. Our sponsor for today is the upcoming documentary Necromancy, Sorceress on the Set. Enjoy! Coming soon. Of all the cast members of the Peanuts comic, perhaps none are more mysterious as Marcy Johnson, best friend and real-life wife to actress Peppermint Patty. Marcy Johnson has also been the most critical to Peanuts' survival. Her dark story is now told in the groundbreaking documentary Necromancy, Sorceress on the Set. Have you ever wondered how the cast of Peanuts, which began in 1950, remains active and youthful to this day? If you assumed dark magic, like most have, you are right. See how, from humble beginnings raised by gypsies, Marcy Johnson got her start backstage as a props manager in 1951. And although she did not appear on stage until 1971, Marcy Johnson, also known as Dark Sorceress to the cast and crew, had been transferring life force into Peanuts cast for almost 20 years. It all started in 1952 when Charles Schulz and Charlie Brown decided he would perform the kick the football gag for the first time, with the ball originally held by actress Violet Gray. Without a budget for stunt doubles, all Peanuts cast members had to perform their own stunts. The kick the football gag went well during rehearsal, but recently discovered film footage of the first take shows Mr. Brown missing the football, falling, suffering massive brain trauma, then lying still and not breathing. Emergency medics were unable to resuscitate Mr. Brown. Then a young props manager stepped through the solemn crowd, kneeled down, and placed her hands on Mr. Brown's chest and head. She began chanting in an unknown language, and the grass and plants surrounding Mr. Brown withered and died. At the same time, color returned to Mr. Brown's face. He opened his eyes and said, "What happened?" The film then cuts out. From then on, Marcy was tasked with keeping the cast not only alive, but youthful, and as her responsibilities grew, so did her powers. Marcy's presence was always met with mixed reactions. One unnamed cast member enjoyed what appeared to be eternal youth and disparaged naysayers as, quote, blockheads. But some, such as Mr. Woodstock, were wary. We were able to interview Mr. Woodstock, now retired, with the aid of an interpreter.
Many think Marcy wears thick glasses. Not true. Those glasses were designed by our costume department to cover Marcy's eyes. Those eyes. The horror. Those red glowing eyes. I still have nightmares.
Some cast members feared for their safety. We were able to interview one on the condition we alter their voice for anonymity.
And what was it you saw happen, if you wish to share? Oh, God. Oh, I am so sorry you had to endure that. Thank you for sharing.
And that's just the beginning. Find out more this fall in the new documentary, Necromancy, Sorceress on the Set. Pro-M-onster. Susie's your typical high school senior at Nurbling County High School for teenagers. She had a record collection of her favorite bands, she made good but not outstanding grades, and she's currently obsessed with the upcoming Nervly County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance. But the events that unfolded at that dance were by no means typical. Susie wanted to ask Derek to the Nervly County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance, but didn't know how. She was shy and gosh darn bashful, and really didn't know the words to use besides a simple, "Want to go to the Nervly High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance with me?" And Derek wanted to ask Susie to the Nervly County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance, but he didn't know how. He was too shy and bashful, and really didn't know the words to use, besides a simple, "Want to go to the Nervly County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance with me?" After a while and some thinking, Susie came up with an idea. What if, instead of asking Derek herself, she had someone else ask? But who? All of Susie's friends were just as shy, darn it! Then she had an idea. She would create something to ask for her. Excited with her new plan, Susie did what any love-struck teenage girl at that time would do. First, she waited until dark when all the workers left the Nervly County morgue, broke in through a basement window, and took several tissue samples from the freshest corpses she could find. Then, she drove the stolen car to Nervly County's chemical waste disposal facility. Unfortunately, they still had a guard on duty, but luckily, she was able to sneak behind him and knock him out with a chloroform-soaked rag. Then she was able to leisurely peruse the supply of dangerous toxic chemicals, as if she were spending time at a department store. Then she drove to within a few blocks of her home and ditched the car she stole by setting it on fire. After all, a modern girl in love can't go around leaving evidence. Finally, back at home, Susie set everything up in her junior scientist gene-splitting play god kit she got for her birthday, added the ingredients and a nice jolt of life-giving electricity, as is custom, to kick-start the process. Susie then painted her nails and listened to her collection of boy band records, because stereotypes. Her favorite song was Never Break a Promise by King Pink and the Pop Kittens. By the way, remember that song title, Never Break a Promise. You may hear it later. Just saying. Derek similarly had an idea for asking Susie out, so he made a cardboard sign. After a few days of brewing, tuning, and testing, Susie got her goo life creation just right. It was greenish slime that nervously jiggled inside a petri dish. 2 large bubbles popped and reformed in the spots where eyes would be. The effect was that of rapid blinking. Beneath those sat an oval crater where putrid fumes and occasional words spewed out. At first, the goo could only say, "It hurts," and "Kill me." But with a dash of patience, a sprinkle of creativity, and a metric ton of negative reinforcement with a cooking torch, Susie trained it to say, "Want to go to the Nervly County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance with me?" Yay for both science and moral vacancy. The next day, Susie arrived early to school with the goo monstrosity in her purse. She shared her first morning class, Application for Student Loans, Theory and Application, with Derek. Every classroom desk had a small drawer where students were expected to place their cell phones and other electronic devices during class time, as to limit distractions. Susie carefully placed the goo dish into Derek's drawer, hoping to surprise him. Susie took her seat and waited for Derek to show up. It was 10 minutes before class, and a few students started wandering in and taking their seats. Then 5 minutes before class, and still no Derek. Well, cutting it close. Derek had always been early to class before. 2 minutes before class. Well, if Derek doesn't show up for class, she can try another day. Then the bell rings. Oh, darn. Nothing is going right, thought Susie, for gosh sakes. Then Derek rushed in just after the bell and took his seat. Sorry, my locker jammed and I had to get help to open it. The reason Derek's locker jammed was because he shoved the cardboard sign asking Susie to the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance into it and it caught the hinges. Oh, that Derek. Golly. The teacher said, "That's fine, Derek. Just please be sure to be on time in the future." "Yes, ma'am," and flashed his charming sheepish smile. Gosh. Their teacher began the lesson, and after about 20 minutes, Derek's cell phone rings. This is disrupting, and he apologizes to the class. He puts his phone on silent, then opens his desk drawer to put his phone away. A burst of rank-smelling haze wafts out of the drawer, followed by a loud burbling, "Want to go to Nurbling County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance with me?" "Holy buckets! What the shucks is that?" screamed Derek. Susie looked over at Derek and smiled nervously. That's I did that. I wanted to." All of a sudden, Susie felt the entire class, including one angry teacher, staring at her. "Golly, Susie, did you create a disgusting life form as a way to ask me to the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance and or play God?" For Susie, time seemed to slow down as everyone awaited her answer. But she smiled. "Yes to both, silly." Derek smiled and nodded yes, and the whole classroom, including the teacher, cheered. Everyone was so busy celebrating this bit of poorly written dialogue, they didn't notice the goo had formed several little pod-like legs and snuck out of the drawer and skittered off. After class, Derek was packing up when he noticed the empty Petri dish. "Holy buckets! The goo is gone!" Susie and Derek looked everywhere but couldn't find the goo. Susie said, I'm not too concerned about it. The goo only learned one phrase, and I doubt it can survive, much less become bigger and more intelligent. The only way that could happen if it gets hold of a massive amount of highly toxic chemicals." "Yeah, we're in a public high school. It's fine. There's no way this is going to come back in an evil or sinister way. Want to go see the sign I made you?" "Gosh, you bet." And they held hands and walked off. Over the next weeks, before the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance, strange things began occurring at Nurbling County High School for Teenagers. One morning, the cafeteria workers came in to find that all 50-gallon drums of low-grade creamed meat paste were opened and nearly empty. Coach Phlox had to keep refilling both the boys' and girls' locker room soap dispensers with the school's limited supply of hand soap/paint stripper. He talked to the students about not wasting soap, but they denied using any extra. Golly! And finally, the vice principal's stash of his personal good time blend of mouthwash and kerosene kept disappearing, regardless of where he hid it. Yes, strange things were occurring at Nurbling County High School for Teenagers. Strange things indeed. Finally, the night of the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance arrived. All the students flooded the gymnasium. This year's theme was Crazy for You, and the gym was decorated with soiled mattresses and chains to mimic the inhumane horrors of an old-time sanitarium. It was frankly unsympathetic and horrendous. But the kids loved it, and they were dancing and drinking punch and having a swell time, I tell ya. Susie wore a peach dress with taffeta like you would not believe. Derek wore a black and white tuxedo with a peach cummerbund and tie. They looked very smart, and they were having a blast. About an hour into the prom hop, a few couples dancing next to the gym doors heard a loud gurgling noise over the band music. Then the stench drifted in. One by one, the kids stopped dancing and looked to the door, where now the gurgling noise grew louder and louder, and a shadow of a shambling monster grew larger and larger. Through the doors it shambled, a most shambling shamble. The thing that had once been living goo in a petri dish was now a 6-foot-tall humanoid monstrosity. It kept its brackish green color and bubbling face, but now had arms and legs which were jammed through a formal suit. Its movements were slow and dull, but with purpose. Someone shouted, "Oh no! That's Harvey's suit! It killed Harvey!" Terror was on the verge of taking over as the goo monster rose its enormous arms. Then suddenly Harvey ran in, wearing a matching suit as the goo monster, and asked, "So, does the suit fit?" Everyone looked to Harvey in confusion. He explained, It's all right, everyone. This is Goo Monster. It found me in the hallway and asked to borrow a suit for the Nuremberg County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance. And I happen to always have a spare suit, around, what with my father owning a clothing store and whatnot. Goo Monster looked to Harvey and gave him a big thumbs up. By that I mean it had thumbs the size of pumpkins.
Is this prom hop?
The Goo Monster asked while looking around wide-eyed. Harvey pat the Goo Monster's squishy shoulder. "Sure is, pal. Poor Goo Monster has never been to a dance before, so I promised we would all show him a good time for the Nuremberg County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance. What do you say, gang? Should we show Goo Monster a good time?" Everyone, including the chaperones, cheered. Goo Monster looked around and did something with its mouth that seemed to be like a smile.
"Gee, that is swell. Do you promise? Do you all promise?"
And the gym erupted in a cheer of good-natured school spirit. Harvey told Goo Monster, "Get ready to party all night. We promise." For one glinting moment, Susie felt her spine turn to ice. Nobody else seemed to notice, but Goo Monster looked right at her and quickly said, "Never break a promise," and its eyes flashed red. Remember how I told you to remember that song title? Yeah, see? I told you. Goo Monster smiled again, and everyone went back to dancing and having a swellington time. The kids taught Goo Monster some dance moves, and it turned out to be quite a good dancer, what with not having bones and such. Goo Monster tried punch for the first time and liked it. And when it came to name the prom king and queen, they let Goo Monster read the results, and everyone cheered. It was a great prom hop, and everyone had a wonderful time. But like all good things, it had to come to an end. The chaperones walked up to the stage, and the band stopped and began packing away their instruments and equipment.
We want to thank you all for making this year's Nuremberg County High School for Teenagers senior prom hop dance, well, gee, just a swell time.
Especially we want to thank Darla and Harvey on the prom planning committee and the hard work of...
What is happening?
Goo Monster asked. Oh, hi, Goo Monster. Thank you for coming to the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance. I've enjoyed meeting you, but it's time for this year's prom hop to end. Goo Monster, clearly shaken by this, shakes.
But you promised.
He turned to Harvey and repeated back, like a recording. Get ready to party all night. We promise.
Never break a promise,
Goo Monster said angrily. Harvey tried to gently intervene. But it's late, Goo Monster. It's time for us to go home.
You promised I would have a good time. You promised I would party all night. That is until sunrise.
Goo Monster's eyes flashed red again, and the crowd backed away. The school principal stepped in. Now, Goo Monster, I can see that you're feeling upset, but these kids have homes to get back to. Goo Monster pointed his big pumpkin fingers at the principal, and he immediately froze into a block of ice. Goo Monster saw the nervous look on the kids.
He's unharmed. He will thaw out with the morning sun, but he will not stop the Nurbling County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance. Let's party.
The crowd started looking down at their shoes. Nurbling County High School for Teenagers Senior Prom Hop Dance was fun, but their feet hurt from all the dancing, and Goo Monster was starting to be a jerk. Another teacher spoke up. Mr. Goo Monster, I simply cannot allow... and was instantly frozen.
Let's party all night. I command it. And no more music or dancing. I have better plans. Much better plans. He raised his large gooey arms to the gym doors, which sparked with evil energy and slammed close. Then we hear a gym full of annoyed teenagers groan, and one kid yell, "You suck!" The end? Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Are you wondering what activity the Goo Monster chose? So am I, and I want to hear from you. You can email me at discountstorytime.com or click the link in the show notes to send a text and let me know what you think. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.